Okay, no one else outside? All the 10 classes that we've covered aren't really what we're supposed to be talking about. What we're supposed to be talking about, only kidding. No, I just want to get your attention. If you've got this book, which is the course we've been covering, if you've got this book, please read it again after this course. What we're going to cover next, these Tibetan words, with 10 minutes, I'm not going to, it's on page 127, and it's verse 11. Who here was at Geshe Michael's lung for this, the transmission of this? So when you heard the lung, when you heard him reading it out in English, we're up to verse 11 out of the, how many verses are there? 14 verses, we remembered something. Fantastic, thank you very much. So, actually, before we start there, no, say Nangwam, Tendrel, Lua Mepa, Dung. So Nangwa means appearances, or in this case, deceptive reality. Okay, appearances, the way things appear. Tendril, you should know. Tendril. Dependent origination. Thank you very much. Someone's got the class notes. Luwa Mepa means never fails. Never fails. Dang means and. Thank you. Everyone knows dang.
I know that one.
Okay. So what it says here is appearances or deceptive reality, dependent origination, never fails and. So I hope you understand that. What it means is that deceptive reality, or the way things appear, karma forced on you, never fails, which is the same as the first law of karma. Cause and effect, right? Karma. It never fails. If you put the causes in place, it comes. So this line says, deceptive reality, the appearance around us, the karmas, is dependent origination and never fails. That's what it means. Say after me the second line, Tongpa. Yeah, good. Kelen Drowa. Gowangi. So what's Tongpa?
Emptiness.
Hey, very good. Emptiness. Kelendrowa means beyond any position. And we touched on that in the conversation. How did we touch on that? When I asked you, so is there a self nature in water? Does water have a nature of its own, belonging to itself, coming from itself? Remember, self does not mean ego or identity, it means self-nature, right? Is there a nature of waterness or goodnessness that comes from that liquid?
Yeah.
Under investigation,
But you always put it below freezing temperature. It's always going to freeze.
it still functions, but is it always?
How it's going to function.
You can. That doesn't. Yeah, that's fine. You can predict dependent origination. No problem. Yeah, it's no contradiction. And this is beautiful that you should do that, okay? Because the next line is addressed to your mind, okay? Hopefully. It's beyond taking any position, which is, if I asked you, does Hector, the good teacher, exist from his own side? Does Hector, the teacher, have a self nature? Do I have a self? See how your mind is slippery? It's like, oh yes it does, oh no it doesn't, oh yes it does. Yeah? That is beyond any position. You can't take a position because you're wrong. Whichever you take, I can destroy the other one. Right? So it says emptiness, beyond taking any position, understanding that things don't have a self-nature. You go into this haywire, things can't be that way and they can't be that way, but if they are that way and they're not that way, beyond taking it when under analysis, which sends us screwy, right? And Gowangi means understandings too. then the next line say GC, Sosor, Nangwa, Desi Du. GC means so long as, Sosor means unconnected, Nawang means appear, and Desi Du means for that long. So what it's saying here, this line, it's beautiful because your question is addressed here. I'm not sure that you will get it because you need time to think about these concepts. As long as two understandings or two ideas appear unconnected for you, that's what those lines mean. As long as two ideas, what ideas? Karma and emptiness. As long as these two ideas, the idea that appearances, karmas, come at you, and Tsongkapa, emptiness. As long as these two ideas somehow seem disconnected, and it's right to think that they're disconnected, how can cause and effect, the things that never fail, if you do something, it always comes. If you don't do something, it never comes. If you do it a little bit, it grows. How can that idea and things being blank and somehow you can't call them self-existent and somehow you can call them self because I exist but I don't exist the way I do, emptiness, how can so long as those two ideas seem separate to you, that's what these lines say. The next line says, say, Dadung, Tupe, Gongpa, Tokpa Me. Yeah, which means still. That's Dadung. Tupe means the Buddhas. Gongpa means real idea. Tokpa, what's Tokpa? We had that at the beginning. Tokpa.
Buddhist.
No, realizations. You cheated again, thank you very much. But it's also a word for the three principal parts. It's a lam. A tokpa is a lam. And me, what are all the ma me words at the end of things? Means not, wrong, not. So the line says, so long as these two understandings, what understandings? Karma, the way things are forced upon you, appearances, cause and effect, and emptiness, things don't have a nature of their own. They're not what they seem. In fact, they're blank. As long as those two are separate in your mind, you have not realized the idea of the Buddha or the Buddhas. So until if your mind sits on karma and you're thinking about cause and effect and you lose the idea of emptiness, or you then jump into emptiness and go, okay, things are empty, and you can't figure out how karma works, so long as that still happens in your mind, you have yet to realize the idea, the big idea of the Buddha. You're still to realize that. Okay? So what? So the big deal, things are empty. So cause and effect, somehow they're supposed to be connected, and then I'll get enlightenment, and then I'll be happy or something, right? Stuff stops happening to me that hurts me, and somehow I can help my mum. So what? Right? How does that work in our everyday lives? Because it's in our everyday lives and our actions and reactions that we have the potential to fix and the potential to continue diving into more of the same. Downward spiral or outward spiral. So this is how, if you have a distasteful person in your life, and I told you this story at the beginning of the course when I told you about Gary, the Israeli guy that I work for, that used to go, Hector, you're stupid. You don't know how to do business. You tell them it costs $30,000 and you give them 20. They don't know. And if I didn't do that, I was stupid. You know, I used to have this fight with him every night. Every night. Gary, that's not what you do with people. You know, you just don't do that with people. He goes, but he won't know. Well, are you stupid, Hector? You know, we liked each other. Hector, you're stupid. You know, so I would see him as this angry, aggravating being. And then I met Geshe Michael in the dress, you know, and I'm like, He's saying I can get rid of, if I understood karma and I understood emptiness, somehow Gary won't be a pain in the butt. Somehow I won't have this turning hatred, dislike, this fear, this horrible, revolting thing caught up in my throat every time Gary said, I'm not giving you your paycheck, you can't do it that way. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, so I'm forced to be unethical and I'm resisting it, and as a result, cause and effect in the nominal world, I'm seeing that the angry Gary, the yelling, screaming Gary comes from me not cheating other people. Right? And I know somehow, and then here's a dude in a red dress saying it's the opposite. The only way to stop the yelling person is not by cheating another person. In fact, is by keeping your morality and not yelling back, not being angry back. That's the only way. And I'm like, what? But if I cheat, if I tell them that the 50 grand we got from Oprah was only 20 grand, and I give them 20 and I pocket the rest, he'll be happy. I know he'll be happy. And I'll be happy. I'll have extra money. Something didn't let me do it. So as long as those two ideas were separate, Geshe Michael was teaching me no emptiness. Because he's empty, the yelling, the frustrating doesn't mean about the money, doesn't mean about the job, it means about you being aggressive towards that entity. So he refocused my whole idea from the normal way of thinking about the world, the nominal, the way that gets us in trouble, to a deeper, ultimate thing. He is only angry because he's dependent on your perception. He appears to you angry, yelling, screaming, shitty, because he is forced upon you.
The karma is holding the perception.
Yeah, karma's forcing you. Yeah, but my perceptions are labeling him shitty, angry. That's what he's saying. I'm like, it's not. Me not cheating somebody is labeling him shitty, angry. Right?
9 out of 10 people think
His wife didn't, and no, and I agree, and that's what we do. We do it at work, we do it with our friends. We say, my perception is that she's a cow. Sorry, you're not really a cow. Yeah. Has anybody else had this perception? Look, she's got the stupid flower. And I'm trying to convince her. Thank you. And I'm trying to convince the people around me that my perception is true. She is a cow. Gary is wrong. I'm desperately going, don't you hate Gary? Even doing it now a little bit by telling you the story, I'm grasping at the idea that maybe you will agree with me and I was right and he was wrong. You know? Yeah, he sounds terrible, right? In fact, and this is how karma and emptiness come together. Because he is blank, because he did not have a nature of being shitty from his own side, from being the most horrible person I've ever worked for from his own side, it was possible, if Geshe Michael's theory was right, if these teachings for over 1,000 years in Tibet and beyond were right, it is possible to transform Gary from the shitty, aggressive, yelling thing that forced pain in me, to experience him as a catalyst for change that altered my every experience of work and life and everything, from an enemy to a teacher, and not pretend but forced upon me. So if the theory is right, and if I somehow could understand karma and emptiness and apply with intelligence this knowledge, this wisdom, that's all the wisdom is. Wisdom is understanding that he is blank. If I could figure that out, then this would work. And if I couldn't make that work, this didn't work. That was my test from Geshe Michael. So that here is Gary coming in day after day, yelling at me, 7 p.m. He'd had another job, he'd come and yell. And I would be ready. And Geshe Michael gave me 3 months to sort it out. He goes, you don't have to believe me. He goes, you test it, but you test it right. And I'm challenging you to do the same with something unpleasant in your life. find something unpleasant that you don't want to have anymore. And make efforts with wisdom. Wisdom meaning you understand that it has no nature of its own. It's got no duck. That thing, there was no Gary that from his own side was a shitty, angry, yelling, crappy thing. From his own side. That everybody looking upon him must hate him as much as I do. If they did, I wouldn't have to convince everybody to share my perception. Yeah? But I desperately did. His wife thought it was good when he brought an extra 30 grand. I knew her well. Yeah? So, because he is blank, empty, he is the echo of my karma. My mind is forced to see that blank object. There's still something there. It's blank. It is forced to perceive an angry, yelling, screaming thing. If I want to stop the yelling, angry, screaming thing, I must not act towards that thing as an angry, screaming, yelling thing. So when he says, Hector, you're stupid, I'll go, you're retarded. That's wrong. You're an idiot. That's how I started with him. So that anger, you're wrong, you're retarded, you're an idiot. What would it bring back?
More anger.
Exactly. Right? Both in the nominal sense, immediately he'd get angrier and then we'd see who could win. Yeah? And in the ultimate sense, that energy grew in me. It must have been there before. And I can go back at all the instances where I had those thoughts, those tiny seeds of wanting to yell at people and thinking that people were stupid. And I can tell you now, all the moments in my life, in this life, where I've had those experiences, I saw them. So, if this was right, I had to stop yelling at him. I told you this last week.
So yeah, but how'd you do it? Like, what's the conclusion?
Very slowly. That was the conclusion. I won.
Yeah.
I won. No. The conclusion was that after a month or so of failure, of walking out of that room and realizing that I had yelled at him, and then I shut the door behind me, angry, like I'm feeling anger, and I'm like, shit, I didn't do what Geshe Michael told me to. Yeah, I didn't do it. I'd have a sense of regret. I'm gonna fix it next time. I'm gonna do it because I promised, and I kept a little long, whatever. And then gradually, that time of remembering that I shouldn't have yelled got closer and closer to the moment where we yelled at each other. And there was that period, and Geshe Michael, was perfect at describing how and when it would happen. He said, you'll sound and look schizophrenic for a couple of weeks, where he'll start yelling, and you'll start yelling, and you'll catch yourself halfway through the process, and you'll stop, but you'll still have the ball of anger, but you won't act on it, which means you're not planting those karmas. And just like he said, I looked like an idiot. I'd go, yes, but you're and then every ounce of energy it took to hold back. Part of it was entertaining because he was very disconcerted. Like he was like, what the hell's going on? Like he didn't know. So part of it was entertaining. It's just true. And then there came a time where I felt the moment arise. He'd come with his usual thing about this or the other. The flavor was always there, and I'd get the energy rise up, and I knew that I had to stop that. So I would focus, and this is what you think. You think they're empty. This is what you must think next time you've got this problem with someone. The first thing that you should do is say, if I understand reality correctly, they are empty. They do not have that nature. That's all that means. You hear and you see or feel an unpleasant thing, the first thing that must pop into your mind is they are empty. That thing does not have a nature of its own, if you've got the highest view. There's no duck there. The first thing you should think. You feel anger, they're empty. The next thing is, but they're shitty. It feels yuck. I am perceiving them. They are my perception. If they are empty, they are my perception. Where is Gary anyway? Where was the Gary I was experiencing anyway? Other than in my mind. The Gary that I disliked so much wasn't sitting across the table from me. Where do they land? The sounds that come at you, the visuals that come at you, where do they land? In what part of you? In your mind. That Gary, that's the projection forced upon you, not that Gary that seems out there. That Gary, that person only ever lands in that thing that is witnessing all this now. That is always present. That thing that is you, hearing the sounds that are going up and down and somehow have some meaning. They're also empty. Your mind is quickly labeling them stuff, forced to label them. So the first thing you should have is things are empty. This Gary is empty. He is my projection. I am projecting him to be a shitty, angry, horrible thing. That is true. Does not mean you have to deny that. But it is your projection landing where? And you have to say that it's forced on you, that it's involuntary. You have to recognize that. Because if you had choice, he wouldn't be there at all. So you've got no choice that they are appearing to you that way. Zero choice. But you have choice about your second thought. You have total choice about your second thought. How do you react? How do you respond? Yep.
That is so hard for me because if you have choice about the second thought,
yeah.
then that second thought is still the present and your karma is still forcing the second thought.
Let's not get advanced. Don't get too messed up.
Okay.
Play with it this way. It'll get you results. And then with the results you can play on the next one. Yeah? Because I can mess you up with a whole bunch of other things as well. Is he really there? I mean, is there a basis to the emptiness? Blah, blah, blah. Let's not go there. This is a tool to help you sort out how you shift your reality. Yeah? Don't forget that. It's not an intellectual process. It's good that your mind wants to jump there. But be sure to get this process first. Anger comes, disliking comes, it's empty. First thought. It's my projection on that emptiness, on that blankness. I have no choice. It's forced on me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be reacting to it. You see what I mean? By the time you caught it, it's too late. It already happened. He already seemed distasteful to you. Yeah? But we seem to have this maneuver. We have the karma to seem to have this maneuver to have the second choice. Yeah? I'm not going to yell. We practice that. That's a nominal appearance too. But I'm not going to get caught in that. And look, even if Buddhism isn't true, let's forget Buddhism for a second. Imagine that you could stop the second thought and not be angry at Gary for 5 minutes. Just imagine you could. Yeah? That just saved you 5 minutes of anger. Nominal anger now. Without Buddhism, without ultimate reality, without karma and emptiness, that's good. Imagine going day after day, stopping all your hatred, all your jealousy, all your anger, all your discomfort. That would give you benefits. You'd be happy. Just like that, without the real effects of what you're doing. Because you're applying wisdom, thing is empty, and now comes the choice. What do you do when he yells at you? And this is what happened with Gary, the conclusion. There came a point where I didn't even feel, there was a few days there where I just observed him yelling and screaming. But my mind kept thinking, he is empty, he's empty. I don't know what that means, but he's empty. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I didn't know what it means. It's not like you get taught emptiness and you get it. It's a thing you have to figure out. Yeah, he's empty. He's empty. Okay, I'm forced to see him as angry. I can see him as angry. I'm not reacting so much. But he looks exactly like he did last week, angry and yelling and moving eyes. And then it happened. It was like sound stopped. I could see him moving. I saw the mouth opening and closing. His face was red. And I just saw a creature hurting. I was forced to see a suffering thing. I didn't choose to, I didn't want to, I didn't like him. So I saw a being that was really hurting, that just thought that somehow doing that thing would make him happy, and I knew he couldn't. And then this thing opened up for him in my heart, and I loved him. I wanted him to stop hurting for real, not pretending and not forced, and I just wanted him to not hurt. And I didn't care that he yelled at me. At that point. And then like now, like a big girly spot, I started crying. But just slowly, like tears started coming down. And then I came back to real things, sound started coming back, and I remember my first stupid thought, which was, he stopped yelling. It's probably because I got tears. That's fortunate. So I felt I tricked him, you know. It was like a little, little side benefit. And then gradually he didn't yell anymore. He just didn't. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. It was because of that. And I doubted it for ages and a whole bunch of things. But he didn't yell again. He didn't come in with that aggressive. Not only that, I never felt that again towards him. Didn't feel that towards him, that revoltingness. It didn't happen anymore. In my perception of that thing that was one way for a while, and then it wasn't anymore. So you've got to do that with this knowledge for the things that hurt you. You've got to think that they are empty, because that's the way they exist. Ultimately, you can think of it through logic. That there is no hurt that ever came to you that you didn't do to others. It's forced upon you by your mind's habits. And when you realize that, when you see that because things are empty, they appear to you good or bad. So when you see when emptiness and karma are together, then they become one. You can't think of one without the other. And then you reach the end of the path. I mean, let me read you what he says. At some point, they no longer alternate, karma and emptiness. They come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold to objects. They're not that way anymore. And then your analysis of this view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extremes. Just the fact that things appear, you know that they are changing. Emptiness, that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect in karma, you will never be stolen off your extreme views. When you've grasped this as well as I have, the essential points of each of the three principal paths explained, then go into isolation, make mighty efforts, and quickly win your ultimate wish, which is to become enlightened, to never have pain anymore. I think that's it for the class, except for the review. I've got a couple of things I want to ask of you. We would not be having this class were it not for the three jewels, were it not for Geshe and Michael and Pabongka Rinpoche and Khenso Rinpoche and Trijang Rinpoche, and all these people that sat in a class like you did at some point in their lives and tried to figure it out, and then made mighty efforts to figure it out, and then change their lives, and then we get a chance to play with it, to deconstruct our existence. So I would like to invite you, now that you understand karma and emptiness to some degree, I would like you to play with that, and in doing so be immensely thankful for the opportunity we have to do this, thinking the leisure and fortune and use it in this way. And what I'd like to do is, we've ordered 5 tankas. These are tankas. These are holy paintings of beings that people in deep states of meditation have seen directly. They represent many, many things. There's stories about them, and I don't want to go into that now. But we've ordered 5 tankas. And there's an aspect of these tankas that are secret, and a part aspect of them that are open. What I'd like to do with them is, I'd like to invite you, this class, ACI 1, to come over to your future, ACI 8, that's being run on Tuesday nights here. Lama John is teaching that. Students that have been doing what you've been doing for 8 classes. They're up to Death in the Realms, and it's really a bizarre class, yeah? And you will be a little lost if you come to that class. But I invite you to please come, not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, and I'd like 5 volunteers to give the tankas to Lama John and the people that run the 3 jewels. It's a secret. He thinks we're coming for an excursion. But what we're really coming for is to say, Lama John, if you hadn't asked me to teach this class, we would never have had this beautiful experience that we're having together. If it was only through his kindness to think that we should have another course of ACI in New York that we're able to have this at all. And it's only because of the 3 jewels having the space for free. I mean, I hope you're donating to keep the space alive, but we just need to pay the rent, and then we're free to teach and be here. So on that night, I've invited Lama John and the board of ACI, 5 people, to come and just see the excursion, but they don't know they're being set up. They're being set up for us to...
I hope they're not watching.
I hope they're not watching too. Yeah. They're being set up to for us to offer these 5 great tankas, paintings of the 5 Buddha families, they're called. And please come, if nothing else, to see what future classes look like, to fill up his room so he feels incredibly grateful and special and loved and appreciated, because he's an incredible teacher. And also to meet people, what the hell you're going to look like if you could do this for a few more classes, you know, and also to show some devotion and some gratitude. So there's a couple of things that you need to do for that. First of all, if you want to collect the karma for doing that, come and join in. If you want to collect some karma, give me some money. Yeah. But here's the teachers that give you money, right? But it's even if it's a buck or something, you need to be part of the putting together. This got painted in 3 weeks in Nepal. They arrived. Michelle, I think she's gone to sleep because she was like, she just arrived from Nepal. She carried this tube. Yeah. She totally did, yeah, and I'll bring them not next Tuesday, Tuesday the 14th, yeah. So if you'd like to come, please think about it. I'll send an email to everybody to remind you. And then I've got one more question. We're going to start ACI 2 after we do a review next Thursday. We're going to do a review where we're going to go and go into some depth about all the key concepts here that will propel us into understanding. So ACI 2, I think it's refuge. But I've got a question for you. We finish review next Thursday, exam the 16th of June, and then I want to give you a couple of weeks off or a week off, or I don't know, it's your class. And so I want to ask you, do I start ACI 2 July 7th or July 14th?
September 14th.
September 14th. It's too long. I can't do it. It's got to be July, because we need 14th. So we're going to have a 3-week break. Okay. 14th. Yeah, I'm happy with that because I think. Yeah. So July 14th it is. Excellent. So we'll set up another. We'll advertise here and in Facebook, but I need to get that scheduled so we could get the printing done of the flyers and the rest. I invite you, please come next week. We're going to do a review, and if you don't want to do the exam, that's okay. We're probably going to have a little party afterwards and hang out and go have coffee somewhere and have a conversation if you want to. Okay. With that said, sorry it's late. You've just finished the content for the first of 18 courses that are taught in Tibet over years. The concepts are in your mind in a way that nobody else has them to that degree in the Western world, let alone the Asian world. We got precious stuff in your head to help you figure out how to shift the world from what it is to what it could be. So let's dedicate that to the highest goal you can imagine and give it away.
Sashi.
Okir Jinshin Metokchan Viral Embody Sangha Shindu Nitewargi Drokun Namda Shinla Chiparshon Mandala Kanyatayani
Ewa.
Divyoku Snam Yeshe Satsoshin Snam Yeshe Rejunli Dampa Kuni Doparsho. Just imagine that being atop your head, entering the crown of your head and shrinking down to the size of a pea and entering your heart, the level of your heart just in front of your spine, and staying there with ultimate wisdom and compassion. Thank you so much for coming today.